Okay, today we've got this vintage cable controlled car. It's electric, but you have cable steering. And again, this will be for YouTube's Ozzy's Robots channel. I don't know anything about it. No note, so I'm just assuming it was broken and he wants it fixed. First thing that I noticed was that the car had been rudely, abruptly opened before, just by the way the tabs and everything looked. So I took the body off and then found that this blue flex cable, which has to do with the steering part, wasn't attached in the car, and they just brought it in and then wired it so it would stay in the car. So then I looked at the remote end, and it had been phonied too. Someone had jammed it in under all of the circuit board material there and switch and everything, and just kind of crammed it in there so it would look like it was all one piece. So I know this cable is not original to this toy. However, I do believe the remote is, because the severed off wires from the switch exactly matched the severed off wires that were on the little battery motor inside here. So I think the only thing that someone had glommed together from a different toy was the flex cable. And I'm sure they did it because they could get more money for something that looks complete rather than something that's missing the cable. So when I got inside here, the first thing I noticed was the pinion gear on the motor was cracked, so I had to replace that. And then this gear right here, there's 3 plastic gears in it, but of the 3 in there, 2 of them are cracked, so that one was cracked also. So I meant I was going to have to take the gearbox apart. In testing it, I found that this motor, which is an unusual style, this style frame, wasn't working right. It would run faster RPMs in what ends up being reverse mode for these wheels, and slower RPMs going forward. Took it apart, and I couldn't really find any reason for that, so I had to dig through all of my surplus parts out in my robot parts room, and I found another one. And this one seems to run the same speed in either direction. The wheels are kind of warped and everything, but they are original and they are still intact. They are missing hubcaps, but can't do a whole lot about that. I mean, if I 3D printed new ones, then it's less original and isn't going to look any more original. It's, they just wouldn't be warped looking, but it's still going to work. So the steering part of this takes this little thin wire here through this flex shaft, and the little thin wire is going to push and pull on this single wheel in the middle. When you turn the steering knob on the dual D box here, these holes are plugged off because we're just using a box that could have been used for other things. And as you turn this steering wheel, you can kind of see there's a geared red plastic piece in there. So that's going to push and pull on that cable, which, I don't know if I can hold all this stuff in camera. I'm going to try. Can you see everything? Alright, so here I am turning that. You see that wheel turn? And then go back the other way. Doesn't turn easy, but then again, this is a little bit on the old side, so what do you want? Moving as fast as it is, it's not like I'm really going to be able to run it up here very much, but you can see it really scoots right along. I purposely left the body off, and it has a vinyl figure, and everything else is in Japanese kanji, so I can't tell you anything about it other than there's a 7 there. Something Ozzy's probably talked about on his channel or one of his live casts or something, and I either missed it or I forgot it because my memory is about as long as my you-know-what. So the hard part was, of course, reattaching the flex cable in all the ends, because they have to be soldered at the end, and then the little thin wires have to be bent and attached, and then the 2 electrical wires, which are also wound around inside there. You can see they come out there. Easy attaching them at that end, a lot harder attaching them at this end. The switch contacts in here had a lot of rust and oxidation and everything on it, so I had to do a lot of cleaning to get that part working. Now the way these things are normally held together, unfortunately, and it isn't just this toy, you can even go back to the Mr. Mercury's and stuff that have the 4-button controls. They'll normally take one of the battery contacts. Now you see I've got 2 little screw heads in there. These are 256. But the original toys that sent would have had an aluminum post that went through and made the contact with the lower contact and made contact with the upper one. And they basically, think of it as a rivet, like an aluminum rivet. And they pound the end over, and that makes the electrical connection from one to the other. But in order to repair this, in order to put all of this back together in there rather than faking it like someone had done to sell it, I had to take those aluminum posts out, and once they're out, you're not using them again. You would have to replace them, and not having any long aluminum rivets that small around, I just go in there with 256 screws. It's a very small screw, very long. Cut them to length, and then use a nut to tighten them down. So that way it could be worked on again. If someone has to get in there, they can unscrew that and actually disassemble the switch and get in there and clean it and do whatever it is they need to do to that part of it. So there you have it. I don't know the name of it, so we'll just call it a cable-controlled vintage Japanese car with a 7 and an X, whatever that means. And the little driver, you can see how he fits in there. He's been in there a while, and I will of course put this back on there, but there's no point in doing that on camera. I think you know what it's gonna look like.